Hey y'all, welcome to my build guide for my Assault Crusader that I have called Shock and Awe. A very tanky and over aggressive melee build that I have been having a blast with this season. Before we get into the video, I want to say that at the time of recording, I have a really weird memory leak with the game, so this video is a bit off in the recording. But to get to the build is very RNG at times. I don't know if all the mechanics used in this build are working correctly, because it seems like at times you'll get your damage to flow when it comes to bosses, and other times it just completely stopped working at all. The game is being the game is being constantly worked on, and the community around it seems to be very fantastic, so I'm expecting great things. I do want to point out that this is a build that you can't just jump into, as it requires several enchants and some codes to function. I would suggest leveling this character as a heavy flamer until you have collected the 2 shock related psalm codes and the items to slot them into. The main code has to go into your armor, and the other only requires 3 slots. I recommend putting that into any 3 slot you have ready and not waste it on your sword and shield. The next item you would need to be able to run this build in a diminished form is a weapon that grants shock aura on kill. Now, to get into the build and what is needed to make this all work, I want to first talk about the stats. So your primary focus is going to be to get 20 toughness stat points, and then every other point goes into warfare. You want to max warfare, so having items with plus warfare will be a great benefit to you. You will always want to have max resist, along with max damage reduction, max deflect, as this will be one of the main mechanics keeping us alive when surrounded. Taking the perks Augmented Body 2 for the 50% maximum suppression and suppression damage resist, along with Blessing of Saint Victorious to further pack on our defenses for running 600% damage taken and higher mission. However, Blessing of Saint Victorious requires you to complete 3 Void Crusades, so it may be some time before you have access to this perk. Once you complete the task and gain the perk, boss monsters or boss type enemies will no longer be a problem, even some champions who have hard-hitting charges or any mechanic like that, as the perk will only let you receive 30% of your maximum HP in one hit, combined with our intense health regeneration while attacking. We are able to sustain ourselves in even the most difficult of situations. Finally, we take Feint Mastery for its damage bonus equal to our deflect value. Since we are going for max deflect, having an extra 60% damage for our attacks is going to help us out a lot. Considering our weapon damage is mainly single target, stacking anything to help that ability is key to pushing harder content. And speaking of content, make sure you guys, if you are enjoying this build guys so far, hit that like button and leave me a comment below. Let me know what you all are doing this season with your builds. Next, I want to talk about passives, and to be honest, it's very straightforward. Taking all key nodes in physical attacks minus the bleed nodes and maxing melee combat pretty much covers our majority damage passive. Maxing critical hits and the suppression tree only adds to damage and survivability. We also are going to be taking every point in the defensive node minus the cover nodes, because I don't even know who used cover in this game, but hey, it's there. The rest is purely up to you and how you feel things should flow. Moving on to the required enchantments to make this build work and get into the meat of this build. Note, the item doesn't really matter for some of these enchants, it is only required that you have them to make this build work. +1 enrage token on critical hit and % damage bonus per enrage token are going to be our best damage scaling along with base damage. I want to point out that if you can raise your base damage, always do that. Warfare, weapon damage, and shield damage are the main ways to increase your base damage. We want to do that because our shock auras are based off of base damage. Next is the main enchant needed to make this build flow perfectly, and that's when in rage state, enemies within 5 meters are shot, and it is the most important enchant for this build, aside from our weapon enchant, which is percent HP gained on critical hit, will be our lifeline and our main sustain. Maps that limit or remove critical cannot be done, but all other maps can be without issues. Well, the harder you make it, the slower you go. Lastly, you will want a chance for an attack to become armor piercing equal to deflect value on your shield to round out our ability to deal damage and our scaling. The enchant inner focus state when suppression status is protected is good to have but not required, along with enraged state causes enemies within 5 meters to be feared. These are good defensive tools, but they are not required. Lastly, I want to talk about the SOM codes and what is required. The main one is going to be for a 6-socketed, causing shock on an enemy creates an explosion. The 3-slotted, killing a shocked enemy creates an explosion, along with the 4-slotted 300% combo damage increase, and the 4-socketed fire aura. Though the fire aura is mainly for fun and breaking pots, it can generate health and sustain on crit, and it tends to be very useful. So fam, listen to me. That's it for this build for the season of the Warp in 40k. Let me know if you have tried this type of build or if you plan on trying the one that I have put together. Tell me about anything you would do to make it better, as I am brand new to the game. Much love fam, and as always, I am enjoying my time on 40k. I hope you enjoy yours, and I will see you next time in the Grim Dark.